This is Scratch and Sniff, the smell-inspired story of how Walker learned why business and love just don't mix. The Painting Studio. Up the wooden stairs, a soft breeze from the tired old building welcomes the feet at steps 15, 16, 17, and then, at the 18th landing step, my nose is enveloped in the aroma of linseed oil, terpenoid, oil paint, and freshly primed canvas. The smell of these art supplies make it appear as if there's something nutty in the air, like baklava or banana bread. Somehow, the painting studio landed itself above the gymnasium, in an alcove that felt like a romantic Parisian garret. Angled walls talking to one another from corner to buttress to ceiling, windows in haphazard sizes, and the long uniform flat files that guarded the perimeter while the rolling easels waited to bring the muse of the week to life. Oil paint spreads like softened butter and sticks to substrates like a hot dog mustard. A dollop once leapt from brush to hand to face, thanks to the arresting buzzer of a basketball game below, familiarizing me with its tenacity, even though it was only a graze. That year, I learned to counterpoint the crescendo of the crowd, the squeaking sneakers, and the thunder of the bounding ball by switching into slow motion, so as to prevent accidental brushstrokes from landing incorrectly on canvas or skin. That was also the year I felt it might be possible to become a legitimate artist. I was ready to wave goodbye to that kid who always got pulled in to make group projects climb from a C to an A because I could draw well. I was ready to say hello to the soon-to-be college-bound creative. Using oil paint for the first time was like getting a driver's permit. You sort of know what you're doing, enough to know when to stop at a traffic light, but once you're moving on the highway, you want to keep that speed forever. The mastery of oil painting is not in color theory or perspective. It's in the grit of practice where you start to understand your own pace. Move too quickly, and it all turns to a crash of muddy color. No, as it turns out, oil painting is not the Autobahn of art making. During my own edification, it took hundreds of tries to recognize when to stop and allow one layer to dry, to know when to paint with glittering wetness, with the friction of a dry brush, and with watercolor-like washes. At 17, driving and painting seemed so damn complicated. But really, it was just the plain fact that too much speed leads to failures, frustration, and sometimes a wreckage of lessons smoking with regret. 10 years later, it was like the studio door was locked at the top of those old stairs. Instead of inhaling the sweet smell of inspiration and creativity, I was left with the stench of sweat and the exhale by someone who just couldn't catch their breath. I felt like a failure for not being able to create art. I was frustrated with the entanglement of Trent, the businesses, and our relationship. And then when he offered to resign, it looked like there was a way I could get out. But once he rescinded that offer, I regretted ever having thought I could get out from under the pressure of having to persevere so that I could continue to be something. In high school, the crushing weight of expectations to excel came from my parents, who regularly wondered out loud how the hell I would ever make a living with art. The expectations also came from myself, though. I wanted to prove it to the kids in class. I wanted to prove it to my teachers. I wanted to prove it to myself that I could really be successful by being authentically me. After college, that drive never changed. When Trent and I met and started to see what we could build together, the pressure felt like it was meant to be there, like it was a sidekick to my ideas. We transformed a basement startup into something truly prosperous, after all. And once that hurdle came and went, I was as tired as I was afraid. I was exhausted from the effort and scared that I'd never be able to prioritize art making again because there was income to maintain, clients to keep happy, and new business leads to hunt down. I operated in a state of just in case forever having a backup plan. Just in case our biggest client left, would we have enough money to make it through? Just in case our relationship shit the bed, could the company keep going? Just in case I exploded into a Britney Spears-like rage, would I still have a few friends that I could count on? There's a painting technique called glazing, where a translucent mixture of linseed oil, damar varnish, and turpentine is used to color and darken the background so that the foreground is brightened and pulled forward. At this moment in time, I wasn't the painter, though. Instead, I was that worn-out, anxious creature in the middle getting yanked into the foreground. The desire to produce a work of art and having no mental space, physical energy, or time to dedicate to it was heartbreaking. Making art is at the core of who I am. Before I learned I could sing, I made art. Before I discovered I was comfortable speaking in front of a crowd, I made art. Long before I called myself an entrepreneur, I made art. Acknowledging that the act of creating art had to be deprioritized pushed me into a state of grieving. The loss of my identity was another red flag to add to the piles that littered my mind. I couldn't look at it. Instead, I ran from it. I couldn't bear the pain of confronting my own truth.